Great. Thank you, Dave. And so there's the link to the booklet in the chat. You can download it, like I said, for free. And Dave, I'm going to share my screen if that's possible.
Yeah, you should have that.
Okay. Can everybody see that? Yes? Okay. And then let me make all of you bigger as well, because now I've lost all of you on my other screen here.
Same here.
Yeah, and it's like you think after 3 years of using Zoom almost 3-4 times a day, I would know how to do this better. Okay, there you are. Okay, so this is our conference booklet, and the QR code goes to our networking studio website, so we can talk about that later. But I'm going to go to this part, and there's 3 main things that you just have to focus on, I think, in terms of conference preparation for this conference. And it's, who are you going to be when you're there? Are you coming in as a publisher? Are you coming in as a graphic designer? Are you coming in as a business owner, or as a conference participant, or as an editor? So who you're coming in as, what you're trying to present or let people know about you. That's one thing. How you're going to introduce yourself and your services. And this seems so incredibly basic, but a lot of times when we get into a conference, we tend to stumble because we have so many things that we want to say about ourselves, and we don't say them in the order that makes sense. So less is more here, but as long as that less is exactly what service you want to be promoting or sharing or talking about at the conference. So for me, I usually introduce myself the same way. I'm Linda Ruggeri. I'm a nonfiction editor based out of Los Angeles. I specialize in memoir, in cookbooks, in travel books, and in the review of Spanish translations. I work both with traditional publishers, with indie publishers, and with author publishers, and my pronouns are she, her. And you can choose what of all that list you want to say, but usually this should give you a good idea of how you can present yourself to others. And this is what I say when I'm going to a conference as an editor. When I'm going to, another conference as an author publisher, this pivots a little bit. And now I'm Linda Ruggeri. I'm a nonfiction writer and author based out of Los Angeles, and I write prescriptive nonfiction or how-to books. And so it's still the same thing, but I'm just customizing to what that conference is focused on, so that I know that my energy is focused on specifically that, what I'm trying to, introduce or sell. So.
And
Yes.
one thing I liked about the way Linda just explained it, and we've talked with others about this as well, is sometimes when we go to conferences, we'll talk to editors who say, well, this is what I've been editing, or this is, these are the kinds of clients I've been working with, but I want to kind of be gradually moving into this other niche. And so we always say, whenever you have your self-introduction, if you're going someplace like a conference and you're going to be meeting a lot of people, go ahead and already start to make that shift in the way you describe yourself and your services and your direction. Because so often if we say, oh, I edit memoir, but what if I want to be transitioning into fiction? If you always tell people you edit memoir, then that's what they're going to have in their mind, and that's what that's going to come to you, is more of that. So we always like to be kind of forward thinking whenever we frame what our services are or what we're looking to do, so that we're not just boxing ourselves in. I mean, if you're happy in your niche, great, but if you want to be transitioning, this is just a good time to kind of start putting it out there.
Absolutely. And we would love to see, if you don't mind writing in the chat, what you're coming to the PPN conference as who, or what, are you a graphic designer? Are you an editor? Are you a publisher? If you could let us know in the chat, that way we can maybe find also some examples of things that we've seen that have worked for us. So Brittany, would you like to talk about this?
Sure. So, okay, so, and as Linda said earlier, we prepared this and we kind of use it for ourselves when we go to a conference. And it's especially helpful to me because, being more of an introvert, I often feel kind of on the spot when I'm in a really busy social dynamic. And so I like to have these sort of prompts ahead of time that I can think about, so I can stay on target and know that I'm talking about the things that I want to talk about, that are important for my business, for where I'm taking my business. So we have a number of talking points here, and I'll just go through them really quickly. You don't have to do all of them or any of them, but we found that they're helpful. So I have the ones that are internal, and those are more about like what I need, because so often our our focus is internal. So I like to, and I also feel like people come out of their shell when they're talking about things that they're excited about. So the first question for me is, what part of my work am I most passionate about? And I think that when you start talking about that, it puts you in another kind of zone. It brings a smile to your face. It helps you relax. You know what you want to say because you have a lot of thoughts on this. And so this is kind of one of those primer things that for me is just very helpful. Another thing is, what do I want to be known for as a person? How can I share this aspect of myself? And then, and I think that's always good to keep in mind, but the more, I guess, when you're in the conference zone, the next thing you want to ask is, what do I want to be known for professionally? And that goes back to what we just talked about of like, if you're switching genres or if you're expanding your services, what is it that I want the people who meet me at this conference to know? Oh, she does this, or oh, he does that. And how can you share that knowledge and that information? And then the next part is a bit more external, because like we said earlier, it's so important and it's so rewarding to help others get where they're going as well, and to give them that encouragement and help them make connections. So we like to say, how can I use my knowledge, my network, and my empathy to help the person I'm talking with? Last time, or I'll say last time, we've been to several conferences, but one of the last conferences I went to, I had more fun like connecting other people with who they needed to talk with, or like who they needed guidance from, or who's already working in this genre. That was like the funnest part of the conference for me. And I know not everyone is that way, but I think it's something we can all bring to our conference going experience that's really valuable.
And this brings me, the reason we did a talking points, because I remember once hosting a meeting for an LA chapter of editors, and I kind of wrote in the email to let everybody know these were going to be 3 questions I was going to ask at the meeting. And for me, it was just so that everybody knew the agenda. So me extrovert or me ambivert going into the meeting, here's the agenda. Then I got the feedback from someone who was at the meeting thanking me so much because they are an introvert. And she said, having those questions let me write it out at home and practice them out loud and prepare for the meeting. And I felt so much more comfortable being at the meeting. Yeah. And all of a sudden, it let me see what it's like from the other side of how giving instructions or giving someone some prompts can really build their confidence so that they can be themselves at the conference or at the meeting and not be stressed out. So now it's something that we include a lot in most of our meetings. We give everyone the heads up. This is what we're planning on talking about in case you want to prepare. And as an ambivert, it's so important. I've learned over the last couple of years to shut up and listen to other people and to help other people come out of their shell on their own time, but also to, what can I give them that can be a tool to empower them more so that they know that they're among peers and, it's a collaboration. So that's one thing about this question. The other thing that I wanted to say, these talking points are what are going to make you memorable. And it's so helpful for someone who's just meeting you to remember you by something other than your job or your, the work that you do. And so for me, I always want people to know when I share this that I bake bread, I have a treehouse, and I drink bourbon. Those are the big things I want to be known for, besides being an editor, because I feel that's what shows that I'm a human being as well. And so these are kind of things that you're going to be remembered by. And so I know, Brittany has chickens and lives up in the mountains. And so there's these little things, that mnemonic thing that works. Like, I remember this person because of this, or this person does that. And that really helps you at conferences remember other people. So that's just like a little tip too. Okay, so this one I'm going to let you maybe work on at home, but this is more for the extroverts out there. Your listening skills, sometimes we forget that we need to slow down and just listen to other people. This suggestion here was really good. It was made to us by a colleague, by Ebony Vassine Wilkins, who's an editor on the East Coast. And every time we're talking about a project or something, she will just be quiet. And then the first thing coming out of her mouth will be, would you like suggestions? Would you like me to offer suggestions? She's never barging in with her ideas and it always gives me pause to think like, wow, I always have an opinion very quickly to offer. I'm always forgetting to ask the other person, would you like to hear my feedback? So it just pauses the conversation and lets everybody know that I'm here for you and I'm listening. But I don't have to barge into your life with my ideas or what I think you should be doing right now. So this one we talked about too. These are your listening skills. Let me see if there's anything here. Okay, this is important. This one right here. You know, asking questions is a way of networking and asking questions to the other person. I always like to ask editors or authors, if tomorrow you were to wake up and you could do anything you wanted to in the world, write that amazing book, what book would that be? Or if tomorrow you open your inbox and there's that email that came through from XYZ publisher and it's your dream project, what is that project? Because someday maybe that's going to land in my inbox and then I know who I need to send that to. I want to be on the lookout for those kind of projects. And this goes back to knowing yourself and to really using, you know, this word of manifesting what you want to be working on, who your dream client is, who your dream colleague or collaborator is going to be. So I really like asking people, you know, what projects would you like to take on in the future? And it makes the other person feel that you're interested in the work that they do and that maybe tomorrow when that opportunity comes that doesn't fit your, you know, skills, that you might be able to refer them that project. So we do have, by the way, on our website too, and I'll put the link to here. We have a 5-part short blog series called How to Prepare for Any Networking Event. And it's about conference going. And it even includes at the very end of one of the last posts of what you should pack if you're going to a conference, if it's virtual or if it's in person. So we find that that's kind of a helpful tip also, that it's not related to networking, but that helps you put you at ease when you're there, because you have all the things that you need and you're not missing anything. And Brittany also always makes me say this. One of the things that's on the list is super glue if you're going to an in-person conference, because at IBPA 2021,
it was the first year that we went.
Our book was nominated for an award. I had these very expensive shoes on that I had purchased specifically for the event. I came out of the elevator, the heel broke, and I had on my way to the dinner, and I had no way of, I didn't have duct tape, I didn't have glue, I couldn't find anything. And after that experience, super glue is always in my kit of things that I bring to conferences as well, just in case. So, okay.
And bourbon. You always pack bourbon, right?
I do carry a flask, but only if I'm not flying. Brittany, do you want to talk a little bit about what other networks we might be that are not our niche?
Sure. And so one of the things that, because we work with other editors, we work with authors, we have people in our network who are book cover designers. And so we have kind of a long list that we compile and update regularly that kind of serves as a prompt for people. So because quite often a lot of us, you know, they're just certain main organizations. So for us as editors, you know, we're members of the EFA, maybe ACES or PIN, and those are great organizations that are really, you know, valuable and we love being a part of. But one of the things that I think is so important is finding like your people, the people who are like niche down a little more and find out who it is a really good fit for what your specialty is, where you want to be focusing. So we have this list, and we actually, if you follow the link down below, you can, it's a clickable list. So if you want to go there and then look through it, I think we actually have it categorized by special interest and by national organizations. But, you know, we've just found there's so many good organizations, and So, if you have a specialty and say academic editors, at a certain time, some academic editors felt like some of the national organizations weren't really specific enough, and they were having a hard time finding each other in the big group of like 3,000 members. So they created a chapter within the organization, just so it could be easier for them to really not just network, but learn from one another, support one another. So we have this list. Most of it, I would say, there's some author organizations here, some editing organizations. There's even, I think there's some design orgs on here as well.
So one of the things so I know some of you are not part of these organizations, and you might think that has nothing to do with what I do, not my. So the first time that we went to IBPA because our book was nominated for the award, we were hesitant. It was an expensive conference. Should we be there? We're editors, we're not publishers. But it felt like, out of respect, that we had been nominated and that we should be at the dinner. And so we went. And we went with this very close mindset that we were there as, as someone who was, nominated for an award. But then, like, I remember the first day we got the badge and we were walking around and meeting people, and I realized immediately, like, oh my goodness, everybody at this conference is a potential client. As an editor, everybody that was at the conference worked with editors. The book graphic designers that were vendors that were there worked with editors. The author website designers worked with editors that edit web copy. The independent publishers work with editors. Everybody at the conference was a potential client. So I'm looking at the list of who's at the call today. We have book marketing strategist, book designer, novelist. So don't limit yourself to the conferences like we were doing just to go to the conferences that were related to skill. Venture into other conferences where there are other people that also use your skills. And so I think we sometimes forget that we stick to one kind of group of people thinking this is where we need to be. But in reality, all of our clients are hanging out at other conferences. So keep an open mind about that.
And
yeah,
I was going to say, in IBPA, the Independent Book Publishers Association, I think that's we both became members. That's one of our favorite organizations. And one of the things that I think has been really beneficial is that we had been going to so many editing conferences, which is wonderful. That's where our peers are. But by going to a conference that really catered to small publishers, it gave us a completely new perspective on the industry. And so that's one of the things that we love. We learned so many new things. We met so many new people. It expanded our networks, but also really enriched them. It's led to all kinds of opportunities that we would have just been oblivious to if we had not just gone a little bit outside of our comfort zone. So that's one of the things that when it comes to networking, Linda and I always like to stress is that it's good to respect your comfort zone, but if you can stretch it a little bit now and again, like judiciously, then what you end up with is a bigger comfort zone, and that just gives you more opportunity. So that's kind of how we like to think about when you look at this list of all these organizations that you may think, oh, I'm not sure about that. Like, you can try it once, and if you don't have to go back if you don't like it.
Absolutely. Okay, and so this is the last page of the booklet. If you do print it out, this is where you can write your conference goal in no specific order. But what helps is by having this on the back page of the booklet, and if you're carrying it around with you, you can check off your list, the things that you've already done, or you can keep checking it to make sure that you've accomplished the things that you set yourself out to do while you were at the conference. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing. And I'm hoping that we can discuss a little bit what everybody's goal is. If some of you would like to share what you're hoping to achieve by going to the conference, or what you're hoping to get out of it, or if there's anyone specific that you'd like to meet. And I'm going to put kind of Dave on the spot and have him maybe go first.
Obviously I'm very involved in putting it on. And so part of it is I'm running from session to session, making sure that microphones are working and all that kind of stuff. But really, for me, one of the things is, for me, once I arrive, to like relax. There's not, sure, I can go around and check on things, but although the work is done, you know, and really it's about being in the moment and enjoying it. I think our keynote speaker is going to be great. So for me, being inspired by the people who are presenting and the people who are attending is a big part of the conference for me. Obviously, there are all these sessions, and I'm going to be learning a lot of information about it. The other thing I just want to a little shout out to our conference is it feels very human scale, right? It's not a behemoth where you are in a sea of people moving along, you know, sort of vendor aisles and that kind of thing. The networking opportunities for people who are intimidated in those larger settings, I think are great here. You won't have as many days. It's just a one-day conference, but again, that feels, you know, doable. And so for me, it's really about just getting to engage one-on-one with people. I also like the Q&As at these smaller events as well, because you really feel like, you know, you're not one out of 100 people who have questions and they're getting to 10 of them. So I love that it's much more interactive. I'm not sure that I answered your question, but that's what I'm hoping to get out of it.
I think so. What I'm reading from what you're saying is you're looking forward to the community. You're looking forward to that interaction with PPN members and to that human level connection, which I think is missing from so many events and so many conferences, because they can get really, really big. So everybody reach out to Dave and make sure that he's feeling the community love when you're there. Anybody else? Carmel?
Well, I like that you brought up the transitioning in your career, because a lot of people know me as a book publicist, but in the last many years, I've been doing a lot of search engine optimization and web design. So part is just, you know, spreading the word that I'm available to work on those kind of projects, because I don't think that people necessarily think of me in that category, even though I have like a strong portfolio under my belt. And then also because I have been doing a lot of more marketing stuff, I just kind of want to brush up my skills in these other areas, both, you know, if marketing comes up as a topic, and making sure I'm kind of staying up to date on stuff. And then in terms of book design, because I've been doing web design and I've been doing graphic design, I feel like, you know, that's just another element where I can expand my knowledge and my expertise. So, yeah.
Good. That sounds, I feel like it's really good to go into this situation clear of what you're trying to showcase and do more of. And I think what you mentioned about these conferences are so good for understanding what's happening right now, what's being discussed right now, what are we worried about, you know, what's keeping us up at night. Because those are the kind of problems that we want to help solve, and how we can bring value into our industry and the things that we specialize in. So I think, yeah, that's really great. I'm hoping you're all thinking about writing down 2 or 3 goals that you can really achieve, especially if there's a person. I'm going to give credit here to Brittany, because I have at certain conferences a specific person that I want to talk to, that even though I seem like an extrovert, these people kind of intimidate me, and Brittany's always there, seeing if I've checked off the list that person that I meant to go and approach and talk to. And it's good to have a conference buddy. That's another thing. If you have someone that you kind of connect with, that you can team up with, it's really good to have a conference buddy that will hold you accountable to those goals that you had for the conference, to make sure that you reach them. Karma?
Yeah, I was just going to add that to your point, one thing that really helped me at the San Francisco Writers Conference that just came up on the fly, and I wish I'd done it from the start, was when I would talk to people, say, about their website, and then I would offer them, like, if you want, I'll look over your website and give you feedback for free, like, not today. So that would give me an excuse to reach out to them. That's not just like, here's my LinkedIn, but something that's like a little bit more active, where I give them kind of, you know, a freebie or something of value to them, rather than simply saying, like, you know, let's connect, and then you just kind of lose track of them.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
Yeah, and I would say, and that's one of the good things too. So you already, one of the things I like about your approach is that you're coming to the conference knowing the aspects of your business that you want to promote. Like you want to share what you're doing, because people may not know kind of where your business has evolved to. But then at the same time, you're there to learn. So you've got both. And I think, if you have some topics like the SEO or whatever that you can speak very enthusiastically about, like that is just, SEO is such kind of a I talk to so many people, myself included, who are just like, I don't know what to do with that. It's just too much. I don't understand it. Or like, I think I understand it, but not really. And so I think that that willingness to be open and share your knowledge is really great. Not that I wouldn't want you to feel like you have to be giving things away for free, but I feel like if you become a comfortable person that like we can like, oh, I can go to Karma because I totally don't understand this, but like, we connected at the conference. I think that that's a great thing. And like you said, and that's something that Linda and I are going to talk about in a little bit, having those plans for how you're going to follow up after the conference is super important, because it can be so easy to have a great experience or have an overwhelming experience, whichever that it is. But you're so energized after or during the conference, but you get home and it's just like, I need a couple of days to recover. And then you start to lose the momentum. So I love that you already are thinking ahead about like what are going to be your action steps after the conference. That's really key.
Yeah. Anyone else? Suzanne, Barbara, David, Emily. Yeah. Barbara Price.
Hi. To continue on the theme of transitioning, who you think you are. I spent most of my professional career as a STEM development editor, and last year I had I was thrilled that not a general audience book that I wrote with the biochemist was published, and so now I am thinking of myself as an author, and I've actually truly transitioning, and I'm a novelist. But very different.
Awesome.
So this is the first time I'm going to walk onto the floor and say, to whoever I meet, this is what I'm doing. And very excited about this group and the energy and the incredible diverse backgrounds.
Wonderful. Yeah, it's an amazing group. It's an amazing group. And so Barbara, I have a follow-up question. So you're coming in to the conference with this kind of new identity, this new professional identity.
Mm-hmm.
And so is there something specific about the conference that you're looking forward to getting or learning or
Exactly. Like just hearing Karma talk about website design. One of our publishers said, like, do you have a website? And no, I don't have a website. So I need a website. And then hearing about things that people have and do that are in this group. And I click off, check off a list and saying, that could be something I could do. And I would love to find, just bump up against someone who needs I need an agent. It'd be nice to bump up against someone who does that. But just talking to people who are in that profession who might say, oh, I know somebody, or talk to this person. I mean, that's what I think will happen. I hope.
Yeah. And word of mouth is so key in this business.
Mm-hmm.
I feel word of mouth is way more trustworthy than so many other things we might be doing. So
right.
Yeah, definitely. Great. Who else?
I can say a couple of things.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just excited. We do have a scholarship program for the conference, and we do have some young folks coming who are hoping to get into publishing. So that's what I'm really excited about, to meet those people and see how we can they can get maybe involved in PPN or just learn more, and just kind of give them some guidance and hope and excitement for the industry.
Great. That's really key. And that's one of the things why Brittany and I were working on the welcome program for the Editorial Freelancers Association, because what was happening, and this is kind of my little homework for you guys at PPN, was that a lot of new members, when they join an organization, they join because they're looking for more work. At the end of the day, that's why we join. The second reason we join is we join because we're looking for community and validation. And so it's very hard to go out and to tell people I joined PPN because I'm looking for validation of my skills or I'm looking for more work. You can't really say that. But when there are members in the PPN community that can reach out to a newcomer or explain, this is why I'm a PPN member, this is what I get out of it, this is what being able to hear that from someone who's been with the organization, that goes to the conferences, is so, it's so little, but it's such a big door that opens up for somebody who's new, who's considering joining an organization. So for us, it was the welcome program. It was a way of showing other editors, this is what we're doing here. You know, this is, it's not, so one of the things that was very key for us to say, that we had to say it every year, was like, this is not a mentorship program. This is a guided tour of the EFA. And so, you know, you can become a PPN ambassador. This is how the organization works. This is how the conferences go. These are the kind of speakers we have. And so you've just become an advocate for your organization. And that little advocacy for a new member makes them feel so welcome, that somebody's kind of holding their hand and showing them all the cool stores around where they need to be shopping at, kind of thing. And I think that also helps with member retention, because you have someone who's kept an eye out for you, who's like looking out for what you're doing and is welcoming you into these other spaces that you might not know about. So yeah, it's like,
yeah, no, and two things there. I love that you have a scholarship, because I think that's so important to be able to support people coming in. And then, you know, the other thing is, and I found this with myself, because, you know, Linda and I have done a lot of volunteer work for various editing organizations. Most of mine has been for the EFA though. And one of the things that we talk about often is how volunteering is kind of a networking, you know, supercharger, because especially if you are someone like me who's a bit more introverted, if you are in the position of like being that ambassador, helping someone else, welcoming someone else, there are things that I think sometimes we won't push ourselves just for our own benefit, but if we can see someone else needs assistance, they need, like, you know, a guide or like a conference buddy or something like that, it can help us get out of our shell, while also just showing the other person what a great organization this is and how people are there to support you and to grow with you. So I love that that's kind of what you're focusing on. And I think, like we've said before, that's one of the cool things about PPN. Every time we talk with you all, like, we just get the best energy. So I think that's I think it's really special, and it's unique. So
thank you. You know, for me, I know that I tend to have a pretty informal style, and I think that's true for PPN. I think a lot of the people who are engaged are very professional and bring that professionalism to it. But I like that there's that balance of we take our jobs really seriously. We really want to do the best that we can, but we're also like in it for fun. If it's not enjoyable, why are we here? And so I like those two parts of it, and I think a conference like this one can have that aspect. We did pub quizzes in the past. I don't think we're gonna do it this year. I'm like running to get on a plane right after the conference to go to my college reunion. But I like that playfulness that we can bring to these kinds of things as well, to truly engage with people. And you two are also really good about coming up with these really innovative ideas about how to have prompts that engage people. And I know that I think we incorporated one that you told us about for one of our social meetups, where we had the name tags, but we also added in there, ask me about, and it was supposed to be not anything to do with publishing. And that's how everybody knows that David Van Ness is like an expert with harpsichords. Who knew? So I love that kind, and everyone remembered that aspect. You know, editors or designers, there were a dime a dozen there, but apparently he was the only harpsichord specialist there. And
do you want to tell us about that?
Somebody had a broken harpsichord and said, "Can you do something about this?" And I knew nothing about harpsichords, or almost nothing about the harpsichord. But it was so obvious what needed to happen, so I fixed it. And then she said, "Dear, you're good with your hands. there's this other harpsichord that's broken. Can you see what you could do with it? Now, it turns out that person was the chair of early music at San Francisco Conservatory of Music, and had founded Philharmonia Baroque and about 25 other Grammy-winning early music organizations. And slowly she kept saying, "Oh dear, could you also fix this? Or could you also do that?" And she said, "And if you have questions, ask John Phillips." Now, John Phillips is a harpsichord builder in Berkeley. There are people throughout Europe that know of Berkeley because of John Phillips and his harpsichords. He's world famous. And there's people that know about him, Berkeley, because of him, rather than the 25 Nobel Prize winners that live in Berkeley, right? So, and John happens to be really friendly and very generous with advice. So slowly over many years, I've just happened to repair this kind of problem and that kind of problem. And that's what is. Harpsichords are what Bach and Haydn and all these other composers used when they weren't playing an organ, because it was before pianos were invented. So
Okay, how many of you are now forever going to remember David because of that? Always. It's ingrained, it's ingrained in our heads now. There's no other way. Like, it's, yeah. So that's exactly, ask me about, that's a great thing to put on your name tag, to have people to ask you about something else that has nothing to do with your line of work. I think that's a great idea. Because we're at 5:45, we want to talk about one more thing before we wrap up, but does anybody else want to share your goals? Because I feel like just saying it out there, even if it seems like something silly or simple, it's really helps. So anybody else? No? Suzanne?
I just want the sessions that I worked on to go well. I have to say, last year I had never been to a PPN conference, and I decided to go because I had gone freelance and it was about diversity, equity, and inclusion, which is something that I've been trying to build up a subspecialty in. And I liked it so much. It was so good scale for me. I'm also an introvert. It was very good scale for me. And I've lived in the Bay Area for most of my life. And it was great to be able to connect with publishing people in the Bay Area more. And so that's how I got myself into volunteering.
Good,
But
good.
now I'm really excited about going this time.
Yeah.
Now, like last time I looked at last time when I went, I knew 2 people. Barbara Fuller was one of them. And this time I looked at the list of people who are coming and I know like 10 or 12 people. So I'm really happy.
Really good. So can you tell us what the sessions that you're helping out with are?
One of them is Barbara Fuller is moderating, which is conversation between managing editors and freelancers.
Oh,
And the second one is a discussion of making content open access.
oh, awesome.
Excellent.
Those are so good. Okay. Very
Excellent.
cool. This is why we need to go next year, Linda. We totally need to figure it out one way or another.
And not only that, but it's in Berkeley, so like the whole package is like attractive. It's not like I'm going to some place, you know, Death Valley, and there's nothing around in the area that we have. There's just so many things to it. So that's awesome, Suzanne. Congratulations on the volunteering. It just opens so many doors, I feel. And sometimes they don't pay off immediately, but sometimes it's 2 or 3 years down the line that something will come out from somebody that met me while volunteering 3 years ago, and it's a ginormous gift. So
Well, I just feel like I'm, have more connections to Bay Area publishing, which is great. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So one of the last things that we want to talk about before we go is like, okay, you go to the conference, it's a whirlwind of a day. There's so much happening. You get home that night or the next night or whatever, and then all of a sudden it hits you. You've got to unpack, you've got to like put your stuff away, you've got to start looking at business cards. What do you do? And there's work happening at the same time. So how do you prepare for the aftermath? And how do you not let it sit, all those business cards sit there on your desk for 6 months before you wait to reach out to people? So we have different kind of strategies, but Brittany, is there anything that you want to bring up first, or?
Yeah, I think one of the things that we always talk about is to try not to just like what I oftentimes used to do. I'm better about it now. Was just like have this stack of business cards, and then they were there, and then I was like, because for me, kind of the introversion kind of then carries over to coming back to my desk, because I'm like, what am I going to say? Or so one of the things that we like to do is Linda and I will take notes while we're at the conference. Like maybe at the end of the day, you'll sit down or you'll write on the person's business card, like, so I'm a cat person. So oftentimes I'll meet other cat people and we'll have like a cat discussion or something. So like, oh, this was the person who had a Siamese, or, oh, this was the person who's, volunteering at this or the other cat rescue, or, they wrote a book about cats or something. And so doing those kinds of things, I think, just to something to really jog your memory and make sure that you can remember what the connection was, because there's so many people that you'll meet, and sometimes it can be a blur. The other thing that Linda and I like to do is to, and it's nice to have, like we said, a conference buddy, but also kind of an accountability conference buddy, in that you can say, okay, well, we're both going to sit down on the Tuesday after the conference, and we're going to reach out to the people that we really connected with. And I like, one of the things that I do a bit more now than I used to do is I don't feel as much pressure to reach out to everyone. I really focus on the people that I had kind of a rapport with. And I think that it's nice to give yourself that permission. You don't have to be everywhere at once. You don't have to have this sort of, or try to engineer this artificial connection. Just the people that you had a rapport with, reach out to them. If you'd like to bring that relationship into your regular, non-conference life, go ahead and do it. And there's one other thing that we like to do, but I'm going to leave it for Linda because I know she'll bring it up.
Oh, I'm not sure. I don't know if I know what it is, but
it's our post-conference download.
Oh yeah. I'll tell you in a second. Carmen, did you want to share something?
I did. I hope I'm not oversharing. I'm an extrovert. So at the writers conference, let me lower my hand. So for like the year before, I forgot to make new business cards. And this year, because I always write on there, like you'd either give it away to somebody, here's why you met me or whatnot, or the same thing right on theirs. Instead of putting a logo, I put a drawing of myself so they'd remember who I am. And then I left enough space to put a speech bubble so that whatever I write on the card, it's like, contact me about such and such.
Perfect. Yeah, make it easy for the other person to remember you. Absolutely. I was at the ACES conference last week, and I have a box where I keep my little business cards, the ones that I choose to keep. And there was this guy who has a little square card, and his card said, "Let's get coffee soon." And I love that. I'm like, that's great. And I know, so this guy's memorable to me. I know what he does. I remember exactly what kind of work he's trying to get. And I think with conferences, I keep the business cards, we write on them. And then something that we've been doing a lot too in the last year and a half is we will host a post-conference download. So 2 weeks after the conference, we will invite people that we met at the conference that, their work resonated with us or that we thought were just like cool to hang out with. And we'll host a post-conference download just to talk about what everybody enjoyed, what they liked, anything that was really memorable. I had one actually yesterday. I had a post-conference download for the ACES conference in San Diego. And it was fascinating because we had 15 people and all of us had been at different sessions. So everybody got a chance to say the 2 sessions they liked the most, why they liked them, and why they recommended them to everyone else. And so we had a running list in the chat at the end that we could all go back to and download the slides and the handouts for those sessions. And from that came that several of us in that group edit cookbooks. So I volunteered to host a cookbook editors cookbook meetup in maybe about a month, where we can just discuss what's happening. What do we see happening in the cookbook industry? What trends are we seeing? What are, publishers that we can reach out to? And it's a group of about 7 editors. So it's a really nice, small niche group, but I feel it'll be very helpful for all of us to be on the same page with so many things. So I think what I'm trying to say is that maybe you're the person that has to bring other people together. And while there are people that want to be invited, sometimes it's up to some of us to take that initiative and suggest doing something when everybody else is like, oh my God, yes, I'd love to be a part of that. And they join. And all you have to do is have a Zoom account or host the meeting. And that's the extent of your responsibility, because then it can fall on everybody else to help out. So those are kind of the things that we like to do, a post-conference download where we talk about what we enjoyed. One of the questions I asked everybody yesterday specifically is, what is the one thing you intend on doing in the next 2 weeks with your business from what you learned at the conference? So it was a very specific question. And it was really interesting to see where everybody's at, and people have suggestions for one another. So it creates, again, that sense of community.
I know that we'll be sending out our conference survey right afterwards. We've already revisited it. I think there is a way for us maybe to add some things to that that are almost prompts, like what you were talking about how people can take what they learned and kind of incorporate it into their lives. I think that's a possibility. We will also be sending out sort of an email to everyone saying, you know, here are links to all of the downloadable things that the various sessions presented. And we'll also have links to the presenters' books if they publish them. Books will be available at the conference, but if, you know, we want them to have an opportunity to think about it later on and maybe buy it from some place other than Amazon. So, yeah, so we'll try to do that. And I think that's something that an organization like ours can help facilitate. But I love that you two are also recommending that on a kind of a smaller scale, you can do kind of a similar kind of thing.
Yeah, take it into your own hands and move forward. So to wrap up, so we have 2 books out, actually. We have one out, which is Networking for Freelance Editors in English and in Spanish. We got it translated and it's out in Spanish now. So it's Networking para Editores Freelance, which I'm very excited about. And we have another book that's coming out in 2 weeks that I wrote based on this book, which is Networking for Writers, because it's the same concept, but it's from the writer's perspective, with interviews to other writers and authors who use networking and how they use networking in their own writing careers, whether they're a screenwriter, whether they're a book writer, whether they write web copy. It's how to keep networking so that you have a sustainable career and you have this income coming in and the opportunities. So that's coming out, I think, April 28th. And I'm going to put a link to the books and to our we have a couple of networking classes too that we have on the website, so that if you know of anybody that might be interested or could use it, if you could send them that way, that would be really great. And it helps support us as well. So. And
we will definitely be sending this not only to the people who signed up and attended, but also to the larger PPN community, because I know that there were a fair number of people who knew that they couldn't come, but they absolutely would want to know about that.
Excellent. Well, you know where to find us. I'm going to type in, Brittany, do you want to type in your email address too in the chat? If you have any other questions or you want to share, we're always excited to hear about other people and what everybody's doing in the publishing industry and what we could be doing better too. So
I think the other thing that is good for an organization like ours is to understand that different methods of networking resonate differently with different people. You know, we always talk about you know, the ways that you can engage with PPN, both when we introduce at the beginning of the conference and also at the end. And, you know, we have like a Slack channel, but we recognize, like, yeah, that's not for everyone. You know, that's some people love that kind of technology and thrive in that. And there are other people who are like, yeah, there's no way I'm getting another app on my phone for that. That's ridiculous. So, you know, I'm hoping that we will be able to offer lots of different ways for people to connect.
Excellent. Dave, thank you so much for having us, and thank you
Thank
all
you
for being here today.
Both.
This is great. Yes.
Yeah. And next year. Next
year. But just be prepared, because next year it's you're gonna get sick of us. It'll be the pre-conference, it'll be at the conference, it'll be the post-conference download. You will be networked out by that time.
We will be networked in. Thank you everyone who's here, who showed up, and we look
forward to seeing you at the conference. The people
and even if you're not coming, come to our meetups and stuff online and all that kind of stuff. It's a great way for people to connect, and wonderful to see you all.
Thank you
Thank
so
you
much.
so much.
Bye bye.
Bye, everyone.